First, we're going to start by making a pinch pot for the head. Take a chunk of your clay that's about the size of a mandarin orange. Roll it into a ball in your hands. I like to pat the clay back and forth to help form the shape. Next, you're going to press your thumb into the center, and then you're going to lightly pinch around as you're turning the clay. It's really important to make sure that you're using even pressure when you're creating your pinch pot and you're moving the clay slowly up to the rim of the pinch pot. Notice that I just keep turning it in a circular motion, working the clay up. Now I'm going back and feeling for any light or heavy spots. This is also a great time to try to even out any of your little clay bumps. Use very light pinches to even out your clay. When you're happy with your pinch pot, set it off to the side. Next, we're going to work on the body. So again, I'm going to rip off a chunk of clay that's about the size of an orange, and I'm going to work the clay in my hands. I'm going to start with a ball, and then I'm going to roll it into a cone shape. To do this, I'm applying more pressure on one side of my coil than I am on the other. I'm going to pat the bottom flat so it's got somewhere to sit, and then I'm just going to keep shaping it. Since this is a thicker, solid chunk of clay, we're going to be hollowing out the inside with one of our clay tools. After you're happy with the shape, and you're sure that it sits nice and flat, go ahead and grab one of the loop tools. These are the ones that have a wire loop or some kind of a scoop on the end of it. You're going to very carefully start to scoop out some of the clay on the inside. You want the thickness of these walls to be about the width of your finger. If your clay remains too thick, we could have trouble with it drying out properly, which could lead to it bursting or exploding in the kiln. This could not only be bad for your piece, but it could also damage someone else's. So this step is very important. Hold on to the outside of your piece and turn it as you scoop out some of that clay. You can also dig in to scoop out some clay, or you could even push some of that clay outward using your tools. After you're happy with that shape, set it off to the side. Next, I'm going to make the frog's arms. Whenever I'm making something that I need two of and I need them to be about the same size, I start out by making two balls of clay that are relatively the same in the beginning. It makes it a lot easier. Before I add my arms, I'm going to use a pencil to draw a little area for the stomach. I'm going to take one of my little balls of clay and I'm going to roll it into a coil and shape it as I go. You can have your frog's arms bent if you want, or you can even pinch flat little hands and carve in some fingers if you'd like to do that. When it's time to attach onto your piece, we're going to use the 4 S's: scratch, slip, smear, and smooth. This is basically the glue that's going to hold our clay together. If you have really fresh clay, it's going to be really wet and nice and sticky. But as your clay starts to dry out over time, we do have to add in some moisture to get the clay to glue together. So if you saw in the beginning there, I used a fork to scratch my clay. Then I added some water for my slip. And then I stuck my piece on and kind of scooched it around to mix the clay together. And then I blended or smeared my 2 pieces together. This is going to ensure a really good connection so that I don't have anything fall off after the clay has dried or been in the kiln. Anytime that you're attaching something, you have got to use the 4 S's. scratch, slip, smear, smooth. If you don't, something could fall off and it's not always able to be reattached. Next, I'm going to decide how I would like my mouth on my frog to be. You can squish your pinch pot if you want a tall, skinny face, or you can squish it down if you'd like a short one. I decided to kind of give mine almost like a jelly bean shape, like he was smiling or laughing. So I'm going to adjust that shape now. When you're doing this, don't go through it and change it a bunch of times because you can end up drying your clay out or cracking your pinch pot. If it helps, set it on the table as you shape it. Next, I want to make my eyes. So again, I'm going to start out with 2 chunks of clay that are about the same size, and I'm going to roll them into a ball. Next, I'm going to use a marker cap and I'm going to stamp a circle on my clay. I'm not digging this into the clay or pushing it in so far that clay is getting stuck in the marker cap. I'm just kind of rotating it around to stamp in that circle. I decided to add some eyelids, so I'm going to start with just a little chunk of clay. I'm going to smush it down so it's kind of flat, and then I'm going to curve it around my eyeball and then blend in the back part of it into my circle. You can always add just a little bit of water if you need to, but be very careful not to add too much. Your clay will actually turn to mud very quickly. Super wet clay is really hard to work with, and it can actually make it so that your piece cracks later on. So only add the water that you need. If your clay is super fresh, you will need very little water. After I've added one eyelid, I'm going to go ahead and add the other one. Next, I'm going to decide how I'd like to place my eyeballs. Since I've added my little eyelids, turning them different ways is going to give them kind of a different expression. Decide how you would like to be placed on your head. Next, we're going to take our pinch pot and we're going to do the 4 S's: scratch, slip, smear, smooth. And you're going to stick the eyes on. Be very careful not to press too hard so that you bend your pinch pot face or smush your eyes. Here I'm going to kind of wiggle them back and forth a little bit. Sometimes it does help to put your hand on the inside of your pinch pot for extra support. After I have them stuck on, then I'm going to use one of my tools to blend the back or smear the back in so that I've got a really good connection. My final step is to attach the head onto the body. So again, the 4 S's: scratch, slip, smear, smooth. Be very, very careful not to squish your pinch pot or the body. Make sure to put your hands inside of those pieces if you can for extra support. If your pinch pot seems to want to collapse, you can take a paper towel to wad up and stick inside for some added support. After my clay set up for a little bit of time, I'm going to add a little tongue on the inside. Now that I know it's stable enough to hold itself up without the paper towel, this would be a good time to do that. I'm going to start by rolling out just a little coil and then shaping it with my fingers. And then I'm going to add just a little bit of water to get my clay sticky, and then I'm going to blend it to the inside of the mouth.